What it's like to be trapped by a Category 5 hurricane. Port St. Lucie, FLA. When you are born in Miami, your hurricane experiences tend to start early. Mine began in utero. My mother was pregnant with me when Hurricane Cleo touched down in Miami. 2 weeks before my arrival, Hurricane Isbell set its sight on the Everglades. And just as I neared my first birthday, she hurriedly pushed my baby carriage down the street with my brother and sister to seek shelter at my godfather's house. Hurricane Betsy, a doozy, was headed to Miami. It landed in Key Largo. Now, I'm waiting for Hurricane Matthew at a Homewood Suites hotel here about 100 miles north of Miami. I'm not one to be overly cavalier about powerful hurricanes. They can be wildly underestimated. Although in today's 24-hour news cycle of breathless reports, that seems impossible. Most people I have talked with here are already shuttered away in their homes, surrounded by ice, food, generators, flashlights, radios, fuel and water. This is a new experience for many Floridians. Given the uncharacteristic paucity of major storms over the last decade and the never-ending influx of newcomers to the state. But they should all know that in a really bad storm, preparation goes only so far. That became all too clear when I rode out Hurricane Andrew on August 24, 1992, inside a Comfort Inn in Florida City, about 28 miles south of Miami. Ground zero for the monumental Category 5 storm. The hurricane destroyed the southernmost parts of Dade County. It also demolished the Comfort Inn. Ending up in Florida City was the luck of the draw. I was a reporter at the Miami Herald at the time. The editors tossed out assignments. My fellow reporter and boyfriend, now my husband, Don Van Natta Jr., and I shrugged and headed out to the last city before the Florida Keys. A photographer for the paper, Carlos Guerrero, drove us there in his car. The only one headed south when we arrived around 10 p.m. There were 18 tourists, some from as far away as Japan, inside the two-story motel. The kind with rooms opening to the outside. It was calm for a few hours. We assumed a good story had passed us by. People called into radio stations from Miami, shouting about the ferocious winds. We debated toasting our first hurricane together with some beer. We opened our Comfort Inn door, and all was still. Until it wasn't. The sounds were the first clues. Nearby electrical transformers started exploding, streaking the night with blue and green light. Then our power went out. Another hour passed. We could hear the sound of glass shattering and metal being sheared off the roof or scraping the pavement. A chunk of the motel roof flew off. We took a deep breath and dashed for the next room. A group of us huddled together. Flashlights and candles glowed. We talked a little but mostly listened to the hurricane's groans. When ceilings started leaking, we changed rooms. Just past 5 a.m., our ears popped from the drop in barometric pressure. The sound of twisting and crashing metal intensified. The storm's eye approached, bringing the briefest of lulls. It was pitch black outside, but we could spy the cars in the parking lot. They looked banged up. Windshields were shattered. We could live with that. But, like any good suspense story, the second half tumbled into terrifying. The motel manager, an ex-Navy man, persuaded everyone to move to the motel's north side because he knew the winds would shift. After the eye passed, he very likely saved our lives. We didn't know the wind around us was punching at 165 miles an hour. But we could feel its power. We ran from room to room with our hurricane friends. In one room, the ceiling started to crack, crumble or fly off in chunks. Just as the ceiling threatened to collapse, the door wouldn't open. The pressure had sealed it shut. We were trapped. 9 of us crowded into the bathroom. We heard a boom. Something nearby had exploded. Water started leaking into the bathroom. One man crawled under the sink. A few people stood in the bathtub. Someone cried. One woman, panic in her voice, shouted for air. Everyone pressed together. We prayed out loud. Down, and another man struggled to hold up the sagging ceiling. Plaster tumbled. Everything talked to us, the toilet and ceiling, the pipes and the walls. We tried the door again, but it still wouldn't yield. That's when we heard an even more frightening sound, the freight train rumble all around us. After what felt like an eternity, the door opened and we dashed to room 240. The manager was there with a few other guests. The ceiling seemed secure. Still shaking, we exhaled. Dawn approached, and with it the storm gradually began to subside. We opened the door and peered out just as the sun rose. The Comfort Inn was nearly entirely blown away. All I could see around me was rubble and debris. We found a German tourist under a mattress in his roofless room, petrified and shaking.